Hello and welcome to the Leaders Council podcast with me, Joshua Jackson. This podcast, just like the Leaders Council itself, is all about recognising and celebrating the people who keep this great country running. We exist to give leaders a voice outside of their own organisations and to support them in the same way that they support their staff every single day of the week. If you're in a leadership position yourself and would like to have your voice heard on the national stage, please go to leaderscouncil.co.uk/apply. Each week on this programme, I'm joined by a different leadership figure from the world of business, education, politics, sports, or even from local communities in the aim of truly discovering who those people are that get up every morning and make this country work. We get their take on the current economic and political landscape of the UK and discuss everything from COP26 to national insurance rises and, of course, the success and the innovation that makes it all worthwhile in the end. On today's programme, I'm delighted to be joined by Alan Martin from Food for Thought. Alan, hello, welcome onto the show.
Hello, yes, welcome, glad to be here.
No, thanks a lot for taking the time. It's been a while since we've had you on, and the world has continued to be somewhat chaotic. But if you wouldn't mind just, sort of introducing the listeners to, who you are, what you do, and how you do it, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'm Alan Martin, Director of Food for Thought. I have three health food stores based in Surrey, two Food for Thoughts, Kingston and Guildford, and Oliver's, which is near Kew Gardens, as I say, all three in Surrey. And it's been interesting over the past 18 months with the three stores because we stayed open throughout. We've traded as normally as we can, but been open every day since the first lockdown took place back in March last year.
And, obviously, despite being, sort of open every day and having that sort of trading platform, I'm sure things have still been a little bit difficult at points, actually having to change the way you work, limiting people on the high streets. Have you managed to adapt to it all?
Yeah, I think there's been both kind of, the positive aspects. You can see positive in what's happened, as well as, the struggles and the adaptations we've had to make to keep the business open. I think maybe I'd focus more on the positives, what's come out of the past 18 months. I think the teams in the three stores are all a lot stronger for it. We've had to make sure that we actually could stay open, and you quite never knew day to day if someone may be off with COVID, or they were off self-isolating, or they had other issues. So the main positive that I can take out of the past 18 months is that every single member of our team is now better equipped to either open the store, close the store, cash up, get involved in ordering and receiving. So I think generally everybody's skills in the wider team of all three stores has been enhanced. And that's the real big positive that I take away from the difficulties and the struggles that we've had over the past 18 months.
And I think slightly differently, actually. I think one of the major benefits that's come for you, not just as maybe an individual and as a company, but from all of this time that people have spent at home, I feel like there's been a radical shift in mindsets. People have wanted to shop local when they can. They've wanted to support sort of local retailers. There's also been an ever-increasing discussion around environmental impact, what's going on wider in the world, the changes and the challenges that are sort of coming up. Have you felt that? Have you found a wider client base throughout this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because there is a clear divide between our Oliver's store and the two Food for Thoughts, which are town centre based, so the Kingston and Guildford stores. So during the lockdowns, the town centres did empty out a bit there were fewer stores open, we did see a much greater interest in what customers wanted to buy from us. So they wanted a more complete shopping experience. So we were promoting our stores as the baker, the butcher, the place to get your coffee, as well as any health supplements or remedies. And that did help a lot for the food for thought stores. All of us, however, really blossomed because it's kind of situated in Kew Village, and we've seen customers there generally using the store really as the local general store and visiting sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And I think that was primarily down to people working from home, or perhaps they were furloughed, or there were other reasons, but they were coming out and about, and they were coming in shopping. They were coming in for a pint of milk in the morning, coffee at lunchtime. We suspected maybe it was the kind of exercise time, but they were using that also to do a bit of shopping. So we actually seen the business in all of us grow year on year during the lockdowns by about 50%, which was quite incredible, really. Food for thought fell a little bit, but if you take the business overall, we were probably in about 2 or 3% growth. So basically flat as a business, but all of us really streaking ahead.
That's really quite incredible, actually, isn't it? That during this time of economic hardship for many, that you've actually improved overall, and now that people are heading back into the office, now that people are not always working from home, that it's looking like there is going to be more of a sort of hybrid bubble over the past sort of month or two. Have you found that continuation there as well? Are people still using you now they know you're there and with that regularity?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's through customer demand, really, that we are now opening the coffee bar in all of us an hour earlier, because we are seeing some of these people return to the city, to the office. We're about, a few meters away from the Kew Garden train station. So we are stop off just before they got on the train. So we definitely have seen a continuation of that. The two food for thought are benefiting from the town centres being kind of feeling a bit more vibrant again. We initially dropped, I think, when everything opened up in July, there was just, it seemed like a mad dash to get to the bars, pubs, restaurants, and they seem to be doing really well. That was brilliant, because I think we had the share of months of closures. So it was really nice to see those guys being busy again, even at the expense that we were a bit quieter during those initial few weeks of everything opening up. But it's settled now, and we're hoping, I think, that the last quarter will be kind of closer to 2019. We're anticipating that we're going to see a come back as strong as that.
Well, that's really quite encouraging, isn't it? And very nice of you there as well to say that you didn't mind sharing the wealth with those that had been closed, and those that had been struggling in the hospitality sector. It is always nice when independent stores, independent retailers, independent business owners can come together, and maybe it's looking a little bit more darkly on the online retailers rather than those that are next door. But I think that's a whole different conversation that we could go down, but might be a little bit more stronger language. But obviously, at the moment as well, it's quite an important month, given the fact that you very much specialise in sort of health food, good quality, local, organic produce, with September being organic month. And what have you been doing for that, and sort of how are you sort of celebrating, really?
Yeah, it's always, organics is always been close to my heart personally. From before we actually were involved with Food for Thought and Oliver's, so it's always been something that I felt the need to champion. But since having the stores, we've thrown ourselves into all events organic, be it the annual September Organics or some of the other events that take place during the year. I mean, particularly this year, and to a certain extent, a lot of last year, we did see the demand for organic produce increase significantly. And I mean, that was across the board. That was everything from, organic wines, beers, through to the usual things that people think of, fruit, veg, teas and coffees. So I think people have begun to shop a little bit differently. I think they understand the benefits and value to their health by adding in as much organics as they can, afford. Although we made this year really, and this was just for us, not part of the official Organic September, but was to try and demonstrate to people that organics needn't be any more expensive. And teaching people it's all about, when it comes to fruit and veg, buying seasonally. So introducing a kind of text into the whole organic thing, that if you start to buy and consume more seasonally, you're buying stuff that generally there's a glut of at that time because it's seasonal, and you can pick it up a bit more reasonably priced. So for this September, that's been our kind of own message, but taking a lead from Soil Association, we got fully involved. We get every single team member in all three stores to choose their favourite organic product in the store, and to write a few sentences about it on a pre-printed A6 postcard that we displayed next to the product. So I think it's given our customers a sense of, we're not just there selling something, we're there believing in what we sell, and that we also consume these products as well. So I think that's been a nice talking point. And we're only halfway through. We still got 2 weeks to go, but we're getting a lot of really positive messages and feedback from customers with what we're doing this year.
I am glad to hear that obviously that message is getting out there and that people are responding well to it, especially this year, given as I say, COP26 just about to go ahead, and food supply chains are going to be, vitally important when it comes to combating climate change in whatever form that comes out of the next, international debate. But there are obviously many detractors to organic food. People that say it's not sustainable. It was in for feeding large amounts of people. The pesticides are needed. That industrial farming is needed. That genetically modified crops are needed, and do you have anything to say in sort of response to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we're never going to be like a 100% organic country where everything we consume, there's a place for everything, be it genetically modified. I think frightens people, but there's some scary stories out there. But if you're looking at crops that are produced and cultivated to reduce resistance, to be more hardy, I think there definitely has to be a place for that, because we're looking at a world that's growing warmer. And a lot of the crops that people take for granted, for instance, coffee. I mean, if you were suddenly told that you could not have your daily coffee, the effect that would have on millions of people would be probably catastrophic. But you've got to understand that coffee itself needs very, very distinct growing conditions. And we're fast approaching a place where the current mostly grown varieties of coffee will struggle in a few years' time. So I think organics are good, but we've also got to try and deal with not only reducing the effects and addressing climate change, but in tandem, trying to deal with how we will feed the world when crops might not necessarily be suitable to be grown in, warmer environments. I'm kind of for, to a certain extent, the research that develops and produces maybe perhaps more sustainable, hardier varieties of some of the crops that will be most affected.
I think that's one of the most important points. There are a lot of scare stories around there. There are a lot of negatives, but we forget that the most grown wheat on the Indian subcontinent now is the Indian dwarf wheat, and that was a GMO, produced by Dr. Borlag, and that was in the mid 40s, 50s that came about. It was responsible for feeding so many people across the world. It is an area that has a lot of potential and can be safe to do as well. But I do think you're right. There is a real mixture there that people do need to eat seasonally, eat locally, realize the impact of pesticides on their food and the wider environment. And I do think that's sort of coming through as well. And it's through people like you that are pushing the message and really celebrating these different styles of farming, that this message is getting through to the wider public. But it's not only sort of celebrating local, celebrating the revival of the high street in many respects. It's not just about celebrating sort of organics that you do. You also try and give back wider by partnering with organizations that are doing good as well. And I believe your latest partnership is with an organization called Choose Well. What's that all about?
Yeah, that actually came about via my business partner, Rob Seidel. I'm not sure of the exact circumstances, but he was at an event, a luncheon, and it was a bit of networking. But he got involved in that, and we chatted about the Choose Well organization, and felt that it was something that we could actually get involved in as well. The kind of in a nutshell, what the guys at Choose Well are trying to do is sell a product which is an ethical hand soap, and by selling that, giving the proceeds 100% of their profits to select charities. The ones that they're working with at the moment are Just a Drop, Just One Tree, and Help the Homeless. So we felt that actually that was something we wanted to get involved. We've done a lot of local work within Surrey, with Surrey Wildlife Fund, for instance, or various Surrey-based organisations. But we felt it was important to perhaps spread a bit wider and get the message over to our customers that it wasn't just immediate local issues. There were wider ones that we could have a bit of an impact, even a small impact, but we could have an impact. And we wanted to bring that to their attention. We're getting a lot of positive feedback and responses from customers on this initiative at the moment. We've got nice displays in all three stores with window posters, A6 postcards telling the story. We're getting the message over. We're getting people to think about how they can help. And I kind of feel those initiatives can have a much more positive effect because you're in a store, you're actually physically buying the product, you're paying for it, you get home and you're using it. I'm not saying that there's not a place for some of these guys and organisations that are out in the streets kind of chasing after people, trying to stop them and get them to sign up for something. But you can witness those. I see it every day in the high street. People avoid, they look down, they look away. They don't want to be in conversation with some of these organisations and the way they work. But I think if you can engage people on your home ground in the store with a product and it's meaningful, I think you're more likely to get people to buy in and to understand how they're helping and what kind of help is being achieved, from the sale of soap. And of course, soap's been a usually topical thing for 18 months now. Wash your hands to the, singing of Happy Birthday or whatever. People are so used to that message now that, offering them a really nice hand soap as a way of helping others, I think is a great initiative.
I think that's you've raised a couple of really important points there. First of all, yes, soap is a great way of helping out. Continue to buy soap, continue to wash your hands, continue to help against any further restrictions via COVID. But also the fact that people are getting something with their donation as well. A lot of the times people are having to be paid to go around and get these donations by people on the street or people that knock on doors, and it's very much the same. Provide a product, provide something that people can use, and still have a donation to a worthwhile cause. So how long are you going to be partnering with Choose Well, or is this a small thing you're doing for a time and then you have another organisation lined up afterwards?
Well, the answer to that is I don't really know. This is new. We're about 2 weeks in. We're monitoring. We're going to see how it goes. We've historically given to various different organisations over the years. This is the first time we've had a specific product. So I think we're kind of looking to see how that pans out. But I don't see any reason to stop, because if people like the product, and it's a really nice product, if people love it and enjoy using it and they want that to remain on the kitchen, by the kitchen sink or in the bathroom or whatever, we certainly want to make sure that it was fully accessible to them. That we don't turn around and say, well, actually, that was a month-long charity promotion and we're not doing it anymore. So I think that, we may well find that we're in this kind of long term, but it probably will help to open doors of other products, because I really do think it's important that you get something. It's all good and well you sign up and you may have a direct debit or whatever going out to an organisation every month, and you may get an update and feedback as to what's happening with that money. But there's nothing to me more satisfying in using something every single day and feeling you're getting a benefit personally, and that someone has had a benefit. And of course, the more you use it, the more you'll need it and buy more, and so the whole thing, is sustainable in that way.
I completely agree. I think that is, makes it more sustainable for people to want to continue to support, having a product they can use daily. But I want to sort of slightly move on here into a different area that I think is really important to speak about as well. One of the main areas that has been sort of responsible for issues with COVID, with public health, has obviously been what people eat, how they eat, processed foods, sugars, an increase in fast foods, ready meals, and the government have obviously put forward different legislative pieces. They're encouraging people to exercise more, to put forward sort of cheaper levels of insurance for people that are fit and healthy. But do you think that there's enough being done by the government to encourage a more sort of sustainable and healthy lifestyle? Or do you think that there could be a bit more messaging to help people understand exactly what's going into their food and how they should potentially change their attitudes?
Yeah, I definitely, I think we've seen over the past 18 months where there's been a clear split. There were definitely people who took the advice of the government at the time during lockdowns to get out and exercise. You can see that. I can see around where I am, the Common was packed every day with people walking and jogging. But on the flip side of that, there were the people that we all know someone, or we've all had conversations about the lockdown pounds, where people being at home and they're perhaps drinking a bit more than they would and snacking more, grazing, throughout the day. So I think we haven't had, I don't think, a strong, clear enough message really on the impact of obesity. Although we keep hearing it, the sugar tax, etc. I kind of feel that all these initiatives ultimately just have an effect on the same group of people in the country. It's the people with the least that have the least that are perhaps more on the poverty line and can't afford a lot of the foods that the government may be trying to put forward as being healthy alternatives. So a lot of these people do end up with a diet that's predominantly more slanted towards, fast food, TV dinners, microwave meals, etc. So I think it really is time that people perhaps understood more what is in these foods, how they're manufactured, what they consist of, and how they're perhaps affecting their health. And if they've got kids, kids growing up, the kids at the moment I think seem to be much more aware, perhaps through info that they're getting in school than the parents. In my mind, we see kids coming in with their parents to the stores, and they seem to be gravitating towards certain things and saying to the parents, we learned about this in school. Could we have this? So healthier choices. And even for us in health food stores, we would hope that we were at the healthier side. But we have products. Anything's going to be bad for you if you consume too much of it, or limit yourself to a few food groups. It's going to have a negative impact in your health overall.
Yeah, it's definitely about having that spread, but also having the access. You're correct. When people are on the lower end on the poverty line, you can get caught in that poverty trap, and it's very hard to get out of. I think that's very much why the Marcus Rashford campaign over the past year has really resonated with people. Giving people
it's phenomenal. That kind of initiative. As with that initiative, and before with his name escapes me, the chef,
Jamie Oliver.
Jamie Oliver, yeah. With again his school meals, school dinners. I think those kind of initiatives are so important, and having role models such as Marcus or Jenny is so important as well. People can relate to these guys.
That's an important point as well. These things do seem to be cyclical. That somebody comes up, tries to change something, and then it gets out of the sort of zeitgeist, out of the public mind, and things go back to the sort of status quo, and potentially politicians don't follow on with it because they know that it's a flash in the pan. There needs to be a wholesale change of attitude to food, to upbringing, to where it comes from, and to the campaigns around it. But I think we can all hope for better, and just make sure that these things are carried on.
I mean, and this is from a personal experience, because these things come up over and over and over again. But I mean, I can go back to I don't know, around 2004 or 5, when I was involved in McKeith Research and Dr. Gillian McKeith, and You Are What You Eat, and we had 2.5-3 years of You Are What You Eat TV shows, which again were putting forward the ideas of healthy diets, whole foods, and the press and the media grabbed hold of these initiatives. And for a while, everybody is talking about Aduki beans, or they want to know more about them. It's finding a way of keeping the momentum going, I think, and making that message in itself sustainable, so that it just becomes part of your daily living. It
becomes
your
part and parcel of daily life. That
Yeah.
is truly important, isn't it? Just making sure that people aren't reaching for the latest, sort of snazzy snack or whatever the some laboratory in America has come up with recently.
Yeah, otherwise it just becomes a fad. I mean, people say I've tried every diet, but nothing works, and it's like, well, no, it's not about that. It's about lifestyle. It's really about looking at how you live your life, and I think people have got to realise that actually we're coming to a point, and it's the end point is snowballing. We're getting closer, running towards it, faster and faster. It's not just about one aspect of your life. You really have got to look at, what you're eating, where the food comes from, what you're driving, if you're driving a vehicle, what else you do in your life. I think we're truly getting to the point where it is about lifestyle. People have to grasp it's not one aspect of what you do, but everything holistically. We've got to be looking at everything, and the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. When you can get there with someone, the benefits that you will get from making a lifestyle change go beyond all the little tiny parts that you've changed to get there.
That's really important. You can take that not just only from an individual perspective, but also a sort of global environmental perspective as well. We're pretty much describing James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis there, and it's been instrumental in the creation of the environmental lobby and, environmentalism as a whole. A really interesting book for anybody that hasn't read it.
Yeah.
I would definitely go out there and grab a copy.
Absolutely. I'm actually looking forward to. I've been invited to a breakfast on 27th of September. It's in Guildford. It's in the Eva Arnold Theatre, and it's Justin Welby, Archbishop of Canterbury, who's hosting this breakfast. And surprisingly, his topic for the event is ethical leadership, CSR, corporate social responsibility, and environmental sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's not Monday coming, but the Monday after. So it'll be really interesting to hear, someone like Justin Welby's views on environmental sustainability and where we're at. So I think perhaps with talks like that, there's perhaps more and more high-profile people beginning to get a message out or get their message out on these topics.
Yeah, it is really something that's taken off over the last couple of years, and as I say, something that's going to be really and vitally important across the UK as we get nearer to COP26. But if we're now sort of looking ahead to the future, for yourself, for the company, and even if we want to touch on sort of humanity as a whole, but how are you going to see things going over the next few months to sort of year?
Well, I think if I kind of touched on earlier, we really are hoping, we're anticipating that the last quarter of this year will be closer to the 2019 last quarter. And we're gearing up for that. We've got to kind of try and make that happen in terms of what we stock, what we're selling, how we're presenting product goods to customers. And we're already seeing that, newspapers are filled with horror stories already of, get your toys for your kids in now because there's going to be shortages of toys. And I'm hearing from suppliers that are saying to me personally, these items are going to cost more because we were paying $2,500 for a container back in 2019, but we're paying $19,500 for the same container. And we wonder why, there's a rise in inflation. But I think from the positive, I hope the final quarter is as close to the final quarter of 19 as we can get. And I think moving into 2022, we're planning a lot more initiatives tying in with organisations that are local to the stores. We've already approached 3 gyms, fitness centres, one kind of next to each of the stores. We've got Majestic in Kew, Primer Fitness in Kingston, and Tunfit in Guildford. So from the beginning of 2022, we're going to work with these guys in terms of, pushing forward fitness, eating habits, and having some fun along the way with it as well. We're going to get interactive with these guys, get them to come to the store. We've already planned to bring things like rowers and skier machines to the shops and get people involved right there in the store, having 30 seconds on the rowing machine and see what distance it can go. So we've got plans that we're well ahead with at the moment to kind of hit 2022 running. I think we look towards the next 12 months as positively as we can, and I think there's got to be a real upswing for us. Particularly, I think, Guildford. I'm part of Experience Guildford, which is a local bid, and I'm a director on the local bid, and we've sent in our letter to apply for city status. Such as I think the positivity for the coming year, we feel that applying and getting city status for Guildford would be phenomenal. It would help us get back on track and help the independent businesses there. So I've got a very, very positive outlook for the coming last 3 months of this year and stretching into the whole of next year.
Well, it all sounds like you've got a lot going on, a lot of plans in place, a lot of talks that you're going to, a lot of things that you're wanting to see and to engage the community on. But you never know, when you go and see Justin Welby next week, you can get him to come along and give a talk on one of the gym machines in the store, and that'll really get everybody going. Perhaps,
yes, that would be fun.
But it's been really, really positive speaking to you today, Alan. It's really great to hear somebody that is taking, community into their hearts, but also thinking of their wider worldwide community with the areas that they're stocking in store, the partnerships that you're making, and your sort of viewpoint for the future as well, about how to get everybody back on their feet and not just revel in your own success over this time. It's really refreshing, and to speak to somebody with those sorts of viewpoints. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank you ever so much for coming on today, and it'll be great to get have another conversation in 6 months, after Q1 of next year, and see how these plans have been put in place and see what's coming up next.
Yes, no, absolutely. I look forward to that, and thank you for inviting me along today. Thank
Brilliant.
you,
Alan. Thank you very much. That was Alan Martin, founder of Food for Thoughts, talking about an interesting last 18 months dealing with the issues on the high street, but as well as some of the changing perceptions towards organic food, climate change, and living a more holistic lifestyle. Thank you ever so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Leaders Council podcast, and I look forward to speaking to our next guest next week.